Hey guys, good evening. I hope I'm pretty much audible as well as visible. Please do let me know in the chat if I'm audible as well as visible. So looks like looks good to me. Cool. So I hope you guys are doing well. Thank you so much, Akash, for confirming. So as per our today's agenda, we'll be talking about the natural language processing. This is one of the parts, one of the very interesting and the key concepts of data science. So here we talk about the natural language, so basically a text, and how we use text in my machines, and how I make sure that the machine understands the text. I mean, the kind of language we use as a human, right? So, and how machine interprets that, and how we can use that machine knowledge for our individual problem statements and all that. So it's like more of processing my natural language, which is the language which humans use, like maybe in English, Hindi, like your local languages, right? So the making sure that machine understands those language, right, and actually able to take decision based on that language. So that's basically our natural language processing, and very key concept of data science. So as one of the unstructured data where the data scientists do work on. So this is the next couple of days would be for natural language processing. So I'll try to cover the key concepts of NLP, like the few important concepts. First, I'll try to take you in deep with the concepts, like theoretical concepts. So I'll be talking about that, and then I'll jump to the application process. So I'll actually take you through the Python codes. So I'll make sure that you also understand how to implement NLP on Python. So we're gonna do that as well. Cool. So meanwhile, guys, if you have any questions from anywhere or anything which you feel that you want to understand or ask, so do let me know that, so we can take them as it comes. So I'm monitoring my chat as always, but again, if I do miss out on any questions, so do stop me in between and let me know that, so I'll take up your questions. Cool. So as always, before jumping into our content, let's have a quick round of introduction. So you know this, my name is Arpit Jain and I'm a senior data scientist myself. I've been into industry for almost 9 years now, and along with that, I'm also a motivational speaker. So I take up industry sessions, I talk to students, I talk to them regarding their career, regarding their job, or if you have any questions regarding, say, data science or anything about your career or job. So if you have any confusion, do ping your question in the chat box. So I'm monitoring it, so we can take up your questions also as it comes. Hello Sandeep, thank you for joining in. Right, so as part of our agenda, the playlists, so we have Python, SQL, and data science. So Python we have already started up more than 3 months back. So recently we finished NumPy, so we have covered all the available functions available in NumPy. And then the plan for next Python is to have some HackerRank questions solved. So we're gonna, after we finish the NLP series, maybe for next 3-4 days, and then we're gonna start some of the online problem solving for Python on HackerRank, or maybe some other websites like Pleetcode or something like that. So we're gonna start solving the live problems on Python. So that's the plan. SQL also we have started about a month and a half back. So now we are already into HackerRank and the lead codes. So we are solving SQL questions over the weekends. So likewise, the plan is for this weekend as well. So we'll be doing SQL. Data science, we have started about a month, about I would say 10-20 days back. So we have covered the visualization aspect. Now we have started things on NLP. So we'll be taking care of the NLP, and I'll try to give you the best of the information from NLP side. Right. Okay, one of question, Ashutosh says, should I do data science or web development? Okay, interesting question. So again, I see these two are, I would say, it's not completely different domain, yeah, but data science may, again, you can have a extension of web development, right? You can have a front UI where you can actually push your recommendations or predictions which you're going to generate from the AI/ML model into a front UI for your customer or maybe for yourself, right? So yeah, it could be an extension. Web development could be an extension of data science, but to be honest, web development itself is a bigger field. So it's not only limited to data science. You can have like a number of things to be done. So and again, these two are two different skill sets, right? So it purely depends on what you like, right? So if you're more towards numbers, if you're more towards stats, so I believe data science is your field, because anyway coding is involved in both of these, right? So you might be doing coding on Python more of the time in data science, but in web development you might be working on say HTML, PHP, or Angular, right? So depending on that, so coding is involved anyway in both of these, right? So depending on your interest, I would recommend you can choose any of this. So it's purely your choice, to be honest. Right, coming back again. So we have this code Python 10. Right, so okay, I have one more question. Harsh says, pretty confused between data science and DevOps. Please help me. Yeah, okay. So data science यार कुछ नहीं है. Data science basically आपका things of on data. You're trying to work on data, right? So like the AI/ML aspect, your statistics and number crunching, data crunching. You're trying to get something out of data. So that is your data science, right? And here the skill sets are basically statistics, machine learning, deep learning, Python, SQL. So these are your mandatory skill sets for data science, right? So for the DevOps, so DevOps is more, again, DevOps again could be like, DevOps could be for DevOps of data science, like the backend engineering of your data science, right? So, I mean, even for the data science part, you need to get the system running, right? So you need to get it deployed. For example, if you're building up any machine learning model for the business, right? So you cannot just keep your machine learning model, which you have built on your own local laptop, right? You cannot just keep it. How it will help the business? To make sure that the business is getting benefited by the things which you have developed, you need to get it deployed in the system, right? And for that, you need the whole lot of architectures in the place. So that's where the DevOps comes into picture. So DevOps is like taking care of the infrastructure of your production environment. So that includes your maybe cloud services, microservices, database services, REST calls, right? So these are basically part of your DevOps. So if DevOps are involved in all the field, it's like an horizontal expertise, right? So yes, DevOps are needed in data science also, because data science maybe deployment zaruri hai. Likewise, you have the backend engineering team available for all the other running applications, right? So whatever you do, you need a backend engineering team to take care of your infra, right? So DevOps is like almost everywhere. So I mean, that's the pure difference. So DevOps is more like more of the engineering side, and data science is more towards the stats. So it's more of developing the models. Right, so okay, so which one should you go for? So I would say again, it's your choice, to be honest. As I said, they're two different fields. So data science is more towards stats and numbers, building up the models, and then the DevOps is like taking care of the infrastructure, right? So more of backend engineering. So purely your interest again. So future proof there kuch bhi nahi hai. So nothing is future proof. So maybe data science anyway, it's new. So it's like for past 5-6 years it has come into picture, right? I mean, पहले भी था, but recently people have started working and realizing the benefit of data. So future proof तो कुछ भी नहीं है, ऐसे तो कुछ भी नहीं होता है, but still I would recommend कि I mean, it's your choice. So you can start with data science and then eventually put your hands in I mean, kind of DevOps, so you can become a full stack guy. Yeah, absolutely. Why can't you go for both? Absolutely. But again, at least you have to start with something, right? So you cannot just learn both of the things at the same time. So I would recommend start with data science, more of a, I would say, in field, and then definitely you can look for the engineering aspects as well, and then eventually the combination of these two gonna make you more of the full stack guy. Right. Hey Vandana, thank you for joining in. Cool guys, thank you so much for asking so many questions. So as I've always mentioned that I'm always more happy to take more questions. So that's something which is making the class more merrier, I would say. So I'm more happy in that sense, right? So do push up your questions, so I'll try to answer to the best of my knowledge. Again, coming back to the slides, meanwhile, so you have the screen, you have the code right in front of your screen, which is Python 10. So with this, you can get a free Relevel sample test paper. So please be with me for this mandatory promotion. So yeah, so many times the candidates do miss out on the great opportunities due to multiple reasons. So it could be like they don't have a better degree or a poor networking. So better degree, I mean that they don't have a degree from A universities. So like IITs and NITs, right? So I mean, most of the people don't have such degrees, right? So definitely, I mean, it does not mean that if you don't have a degree from an IIT, you cannot get a job. It's not like that, right? So it's purely, totally not possible. It's totally not true. And likewise, I mean, there are other conditions also, like you're applying for a number of jobs, like there are at least 100 other applicants for the same job, right? So your resume is not actually standing out from for that job application. So there could be an issue with your resume, like your resume is missing out on some certain keywords, or there is something which is totally beyond your control, right? And also you're applying for a number of jobs, 50, 60, or maybe and 200, 300 jobs. Still, you're not getting even a single interview call. Very practical problem. It happens to I would say every other person. So it's very, very normal. So do not get confused, do not get demotivated by that. It's very normal. But to cater these issues only, Unacademy has launched the Relevel, which is one of the India's first test hiring platform, right? It is helping you to get your dream job. So here, the job is purely based on your skills and talent. So you're not dependent on any degree or any people networking here, right? So if you're skilled enough, if you have the knowledge, you should be getting a job here. So how it works? So here the platform demands you to I mean, go through an assessment. So it's like you have to choose the area of your interest, and then based on that, you'll be asked to go for an assessment. And based on your score, based off your marks, based off your score in this assessment, you will be getting an opportunity. The companies will start reaching out to you, right? So it's more of a vice versa thing here. So again, apart from this, there are certain other benefits also involved if you participate in this Relevel test. So I'll just brief you in some of those. At least 50 plus companies are hiring directly from the Relevel platform, including the top startups and the unicorns, such as ENY, Upgrad, Cred, Razorpay, Urban Company, and many more, right? So they are hiring directly from the Relevel platform. At least there are 1,000 plus open job positions right now across three different portfolios: business development, front end, and the back end development, right? And the good thing is it's completely free, so you're not supposed to be physically present anywhere to attempt this test. So you can take this from the comfort of your home. So you're not expected to be physically present anywhere. The best part is this is completely free, guys. So you're not actually paying even a single penny to actually attempt this test, right? So this is completely free. The only expectation from you is you have to finish your entire test in a single day. So by that I mean, so there are multiple rounds of tests. So you have to finish your entire test in a single day, and that day could be of your choice, right? And once you have given the test, your scores will be revealed in a week's time, right? So yes, there is a qualifying score. So you have to get at least 70% of marks to make your Relevel profile. So right now it's for 1,000 marks. So you have to score at least 700. Anything on top of that is like cherry on the cake. You can understand that, right? So yeah, and again, unfortunately, if you're not able to meet this qualifying score, and if you feel that your score is low and you want to attempt it again, so you can reattempt it, but that can happen only after 30 days of your first attempt, right? So there has to be a time gap of 30 days. That's mandatory. And again, apart from that, there are certain goodies involved. So if you are one of the top scorers in a particular category in a month, you will be awarded with some exciting goodies like MacBook, iPhone, and many more, right? So if you're one of the top scorers. So with this Relevel, guys, you are in a unique position to invite interest from the companies instead of you hunting for your own opportunities, right? So once you have given the test, you have to just sit back and relax. The companies will start reaching out to you once your Relevel scores have been revealed. Cool. So registration also is quite easy on this platform, guys. The link is there in the YouTube description. So I would recommend you to definitely go through that. The very first thing it will ask you on this link is to choose the test of your choice. So as I've said, so there are three different major portfolios right now: business development, front-end development, and the back-end development. There are other portfolios also are being added, like related to data science and business analytics, Python, and all that. So you should be able to see that. So business development, there are multiple roles, like we have sales associate, customer engagement associate in business development, and we have Angular developer, web developer in front end, backend engineer, data engineer in the backend development. So depending on your area of interest of your choice, so you can choose the portfolio. The very next thing it will ask you to choose the test date, right? So slots are limited. You know that it's a beta platform, so I would recommend you to book your slots fast. So you can choose the test date of your choice. So choose the date on which you are expected to be physically and mentally present, right? The very last thing, it'll ask you to fill up your admit card details, like the basic demographics, including your full name, email ID, birth year, state, along with your gender. And at last, you have an option to put up your promo code. So here in this promo code, you can definitely put up the code Python 10, which I was talking about earlier. So if you use the code Python 10 here, you're going to unlock a bonus sample test paper for you, right? So that bonus sample test paper will get unlocked if you use the code Python 10 here. And that actually is where you're going to get the sense of the questions which are supposed to be asked on the assessment, right? So the bonus sample test paper here will be having almost a replica of your questions which are expected to be on the original test, right? So that's definitely a benefit for you. So once you have done that, you should be able to see this home screen, and here you have a tab practice. Under the practice, you should be able to see your sample test paper. So you can download it and just try to practice it at the comfort of your own time, and then definitely be prepared for your D-Day. Right, so with this, guys, I would definitely recommend you to register for the Relevel today. So there is anyway no cost involved in this, right? So there's no harm in registering yourself. So try to register it and then attempt the test for once. If you feel that you're not getting benefited, you can take your decisions elsewise later, but at least you can try it for once, right? So there's no cost anyway involved here, right? So with this, guys, we have an official Telegram channel as well. So please do join this official Telegram channel. The link is again there in the YouTube description. So I would recommend you to join this. It's a one-place stop where you can get all the upcoming schedules and the classes which are expected to be there on the platform, right? So you can obviously join this. At last, guys, please do like and share the video. If you feel that you're getting benefited, at least the least which we can ask from you is to like the video, right? So with this, we are into a content slide. So we are into the series of Python for data science, and we are talking about NLP here. NLP क्या है? Natural language processing. ठीक है? अभी natural language processing है क्या? So let's try to understand that. Anybody has any guesses? Any guesses? I'm okay to take even the wrong answers, guys. So do not worry about your wrong answers. Any guesses? Let's try to make this class interactive. So if you have any understanding what is natural language processing, any guesses, any idea, anybody wants to speak up, and you have any understanding about natural language processing, what it does, why do we need this, what is the benefit of having NLP? Any ideas, guys? Any answers are welcome. So there's no wrong or a right answer here. I'll anyway tell you what it is, but anybody wants to take a guess here? Cool. I think people are trying to understand this. Fair enough. Before jumping into what is NLP, let's try to understand few of the backgrounds of NLP, right? So generally, NLP क्या है? I mean, like natural language. So language क्या है सबसे पहले? So it's like more of a method of communication with the help of which the humans can speak, read, and write, right? So आप जैसे बात करते हो, the way you talk to somebody. So you're communicating with someone else, right? Like you're communicating to humans. And how do humans communicate? They can either speak, they can write, they can read, to any of the modes. So that is something which is, and the common base is like language, right? So the language is the method of communication, right? I'm not talking about any specific language here, like English, French, Bengali. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about the language. So language kya hai? Basically, it's a method of your communication. That's the way how humans interact, right? In other words, humans can think, can make plans, and can make decisions on your natural language. For example, if I say something, how are you, right? The other person is able to understand how he is supposed to respond to this question, how are you, right? Or maybe what is your name? So he's able to decode it, right? He's able to understand what is the meaning of this question, and based on that question, he's able to respond to that. Cool. So that's the kind of understanding humans have, right? But what the problem with the machines is how the machine can understand this natural language, how the machine can understand the human language, right? Can humans communicate in natural language with the computers? I mean, can you just tell the computer, like your machine, hey, machine, please, I'm just bored. Please turn on a music. Like the way we have something called as Siri, we have something called as Alexa, we have something called as the Google bots, right? So that is something where they are able to understand your language, right? It is able to understand how we are trying to speak and what do we mean, right? And based on that, it is able to decode it and take an action also on top of that, right? Very well said, Vandana. Yes, processing of natural languages which we speak to get understandable by machines. Absolutely correct. We are making sure that the machines are able to understand our natural language. So that's the natural language processing. And processing, the machines are able to process the natural language the way humans communicate, right? And definitely, Sandeep very well said, yes, teaching the human language to machines. Absolutely correct. So we are making sure that the machines are able to understand or decode the humans' a way of communicating with each other, which is the language, right? So this is the challenge. And now developing these NLP applications is a huge challenge for us, because generally the computers requires the structured data, right? Structured data matlab, how do a machine can understand? Structured data kya hota hai? Rows and columns, like zeros, one, some numbers, right? I cannot just like for example, when I'm speaking something like what is your name, it's a text, it's more of a string for me, right? But the machines do not understand strings. Machines, technically they know the numbers, right? How can I convert this text into a number? So how can I make sure that the machine is able to understand this text in form of a number? What will be that number, right? Machines ko to text nahi pata, right? And it's unstructured data for me. Text is unstructured data. Machines do require the structured data to learn. So that's where the ambiguity comes, right? So that's where the problem is, where to make the machines learn this natural language, and for that there are a lot of concepts, lot of key processes, methods available under the computational process, in which we can actually decode this unstructured data and make sure that the machine understands this text, right? So let's try to understand that. So now, what is NLP? NLP is nothing but a natural language. Is that subfield where you're making sure that the machines are able to understand or process the human language, right? In simple words, NLP is a way of machines to analyze, understand, and derive meaning from human natural languages. And that could be anything. It could be Hindi, it could be English, French, Dutch, any language, right? You're making sure that the machines are able to understand the human language. They're able to analyze, understand, and derive the meaning out of this human language. So that's what NLP is. Any questions here, guys? This is just an intro to you. So we are trying to understand what is NLP. I hope you've understood what is NLP, why it is needed, right? So you're making sure that the machines are able to respond to your text or to your natural language, the way you communicate, whether it is in the written form or the verbal form. Like, so you speak, you read, you write, right? So whatever the form it is, the machines are able to understand that. Any questions, guys? Any questions? Just a quick yes or no. Please put up in the chat. Meanwhile, let's proceed. So let's look at this. How a human interpret into a sentence. Now look at this sentence. For example, I have man is to women as king is to what? Can somebody answer this question? Humans can interpret this question very, very, very clearly. It's very, I would say, not very difficult for us to understand. We are able to decode this question, right? If man is to women, then as king is to what? I mean, by default, it's definitely it's queen, right? Because man is more of a male, and then women is a female. King is definitely a male here. The opposite of king is like queen in terms of my gender. So we can literally interpret it, right? So, and then for me, it becomes very easy to understand, right? So we can relate that man relates to king. So elsewise, the women relate to queen, right? So the answer is queen. So it's like a human way of interpreting it, right? So now let's try to understand it with following easy steps for the machine interpretation. So how can a machine learn this, right? For the very first thing, we need to feed the machines with enough data so that the machines can learn from experience. The machine does not know what is man, what is king, right? So machine cannot relate the man to king, right? By default, it cannot. So for that, we have to feed the machines with enough data so that the machine is now knowing this fact that by default man is related to king. Likewise, it's just one odd example, right? So for any of your natural language, for any of your more of a lingual word, you have to make sure that the machine is able to understand that, right? So for that you have to feed the machine with enough data, right? So now here, so then machines will create the word vectors. I will talk about the word vectors by using the deep learning algorithms from the data we fed earlier as well as from its surrounding data. So now what happens inside my machine learning interpretations? So technically, I'll just tell you what it does. It somehow converts this text into some form of numbers. Okay. And we'll go deep in that format. So basically vectors यहाँ पे कुछ भी नहीं है. समझो आप vectors plain English sentence में it's more of a number. It's like more of I'm converting a text into a more of a machine readable format, that is numbers. I'm trying to feed, I'm trying to make sure that the machine is able to recognize this text as form of a numbers, like more of the way the machine can understand it, the decode it. Cool. Then on top of this, when I have some numbers, I can perform some simple algebraic operations, plus minus, जो भी, I mean plus minus तो बहुत ही simple बोल दिया मैंने, but I mean just more of, if I have some numbers, right, उस numbers पे आप algebraic operations कर सकते हो, right, which is, and here the word vectors क्या है मेरा, nothing but my some numbers, some form of my numbers, okay. So when I have the numbers, the machine can actually do some algebraic operations, and then from those numbers it can try to identify, okay, closer to this, then it could mean this, and if the value is nearer to some other value, then it could be this, right? So now with this sense of the number, the machine are able to understand what exactly the humans are trying to communicate with this natural language, right? So ultimately here the machines, what it does, whatever with the kind of data it gets, with the kind of enough information it gets, it tries to decode it in form of a number, right? So here the objective is ultimately internally here to convert the text to numbers, right? And for that we have n number of things there. So there are certain processes, there are certain components of NLP involved. So I'll talk about each of these components individually. So generally what happens, there are 4 different processes involved. Okay, the very first is morphological process. I'll be talking about that. The second is the syntax analysis, where we have the grammar and the lexicons checks. So I'm trying to understand the grammatical portion of my, like the verbs and all that. So in my text analysis, so that's my syntax analysis. The third is my semantic analysis, where I have certain rules. So like I'll talk about that. So about understanding my semantics of my data, semantic rules. And the very last is my pragmatic analysis, more of a contextual information, like understanding the context of my conversation, right? So 4 different components of my NLP: morphological process, syntax analysis, semantic analysis, and the last is pragmatic analysis. Cool. Let's take it one by one. Okay, so let's take it one by one and let's try to understand what do we mean by individual components of NLP. And guys, the only reason I'm giving you this much of brief before jumping into the Python codes, you need to understand what are the processes, because there are certain set of rules involved in developing your NLP process, right? So it's more of your intuition also. If you do not know the entire process, it will become a little trickier for you to understand implement it on Python front, right? So that is the reason why I'm giving you this much of details. So coming back again, so morphological process kya? It's basically the first component of my NLP. Here what it does, it breaks the language into chunks. Okay, so basically nothing but my tokens. So kya hota hai? For example, suppose I'm talking about a sentence, for example, sentence like my name is Arpit Jain. So here I have 5 words, right? My is my first word, name is my second word, is my third word, Arpit is my fourth word, and Jain is my 5th word, right? If I talk about a sentence, so I have here tokens, nothing but it means words. And for example, if I have a paragraph, so paragraph mein suppose I'm talking about, say, myself. So my name is Arpit Jain, I work here, I do this, I do that. So I have, say, 10 sentences about myself, right? So here the tokens mean individual sentences of a paragraph. So there are 2 different meaning of tokens here. The first is, if I have a sentence, so in the sentence, the smaller chunks of my information are my words, correct? But or the contrary, if I have a paragraph, so here the tokens means my individual sentences. So those are my smaller chunks of my information in a paragraph, right? So what happens in the morphological processing, the bigger data, the bigger information, right, gets we are breaking it into smaller chunks of information, and we call them as tokens, right? So like as I said, for the sentences is more of a words. So I have 5 tokens in this sentence. My name is Arpit Jain, right? अब इसमें कुछ चीजें जानने वाली हैं बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट. जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल ऐसे my name is Arpit Jain. इसमें मेरा what is the, I would say, the most important information from this. Arpit Jain is the most important information, right? My name is, if I still remove my name is somehow, if I just give Arpit Jain or say name Arpit Jain, I remove my and is, right? So, but from this 5 tokens, even if I have just 3 tokens, name Arpit Jain, right? I'm still able to make a sense out of this, right? What do I'm trying to say, right? So that's what again machine does. It tries to identify the I would say important vectors or the important tokens out of my overall sentences, and I'll tell you how it does that later. But then again, we have to understand that even if I have say 100 tokens, there are high possibility that all the 100 tokens are not of equal importance, right? Like for example, I said my is not of that much of great importance. Even is not of that great importance. But yes, name Arpit Jain is like of the most higher importance, I would say, in this sentence, right? So likewise, giving the priorities to my tokens becomes very important. I hope that's making sense, right? So that's about my morphological processing. So I'm kind of breaking my bigger sentences, bigger chunks of my information into bigger sentences, bigger information to smaller chunks, right? And here we call them as tokens. For example, a word like every day, right? So can be broken into two smaller words, subwords like every and day, right? Likewise, I said my name is Arpit Jain for a sentence. So my name is Arpit Jain is all 5 tokens, right? So likewise, you are kind of breaking your bigger information into smaller pieces, smaller chunks. Any questions, guys? Any questions on tokens? Any questions on what do I mean by tokens or chunking? And here, I mean, let's not talk about chunking. So more of a tokens concept. Any questions, guys? Please stop me in between and put up your questions, okay? ये concept समझना थोड़ा ज़रूरी है before we jump into the practical applications, because whenever we jump into the codes, right? So I will just start doing these processes. Like I'll very first topic I'll create the tokens of my words, and then you'll ask me that why I'm creating this. What is token? So just to understand the concept, it's important to know the more of a theoretical part before jumping into the codes, right? So do stop me if I don't understand that. Cool. So that's about my morphological analysis where I'm creating the tokens, right? Now the second is my syntax analysis, and trust me, is one of the most important components of my NLP, right? So there are certain important components, certain purposes of the syntax analysis. The first is it checks whether the sentence is well formed or not. It basically checks for your structure that shows the syntactic relationship between your different words. So now you're trying to correlate. You remember I said my name is Arpit Jain, right? So even if I remove my and is, it is able to correlate name Arpit Jain, right? So I'm trying to understand how well my sentences are formed, right? What are my relationships between my individual words? Like we talk about the grams, unigrams, bigrams. You remember? I mean, if you have heard about, it's more of creating the relationships between my individual tokens. So now the very first component, I've broken the bigger information to the smaller chunks. Now on the smaller chunks, I'm trying to find out the relationship between my individual tokens, right? So that's more of making the sense out of your tokens, right? For example, suppose if I have a sentence like the school goes to the student. I mean, if we have something like this, the school goes to the student, it is not making any sense, right? It should be vice versa. The student goes to the school, right? So the syntax analyzer here is able to understand that to get the sense of your coding. So the school is related to student, but students should come before school, right? So that's how it is able to identify the relationship between your individual tokens. The school is one token, goes in another token, student is another token. So yes, to find out the relationships, it is able to decode that yes, students should go to school, not school is going to your school to student, right? So likewise, if I have a syntax analyzer in place, which I'll talk about, which I'll show you how you're going to implement your syntax analyzer, it is able to decode your sense. It is able to identify the relationship between your tokens. Cool. So that's my second component, guys. So we have discussed about morphological analysis, and the second we have discussed about syntax analysis. So syntax analysis, we are trying to understand the sentences here. We're trying to understand the sense of your coding, sense of your tokens, my bad. Cool. The third is my semantic analysis, right? So here we're more talking about the meaningfulness of your text, right? It is able to understand the exact meaning out of your more of your tokens of your individual, I would say, components of your text, right? And it's more of a, we can say, the dictionary meaning from the text, right? So exactly drawing the meaning of your text. So that's what the semantic does. Now here what we do, for example, a sentence like it's a hot ice cream, right? So I mean, ice cream cannot be hot, right? So it's like more of, I'm actually trying to get the exact meaning of that text, and that through the, I mean, it's more of a dictionary meaning component, right? We try to compare it with the available informations we have in the packages or the libraries which we load for text analysis. And here it's more of trying to get the meaningfulness of the sentences, right? So it's more of getting the meaning out of your sentences. That's where my semantic analysis comes into picture. Right, so if a sentence is like, say, it's a hot ice cream, so definitely would be rejected by a semantic analyzer, right? The third is, the last is my pragmatic analysis. Is the fourth component. So here we are actually, it includes the fitting the actual objects or events that exist in each context with object references obtained by previous component, that is semantic analysis. Yes, definitely. Like for example, suppose I have a sentence like, say, put the fruits in the basket on the table. So here it is trying to identify my parts of speeches. Like for example, I'm trying to understand what are my nouns, what are my different adjectives, what are my different pronouns, right? So it is trying to identify the individual components of this sentences, and based on that it is giving me the interpretations of it. For example, suppose I have said put the fruits in the basket on the table. So it could be like, I can make a sense here two ways. So for example, fruits is a noun, basket is a noun, table is a noun, right? So put the fruits in the basket on the table. So that means that either the basket is on the table and I'm asking it to put all the fruits which is in the basket which is on the table, or put the entire fruits in the basket which is on the table. So either ways around, right? So there are two different meanings out of this, right? And the semantic interpretations, which is giving me two interpretations here, the pragmatic analyzer is able to choose between these two possibilities, right? So like making the contextual analysis based on the context of my information. Like maybe like for example, I'm saying that, hey, what a good movie, right? I'm trying to say, okay, now I'm saying that, okay, how good the movie is, right? I mean, then I will say that, hey, the movie was not that good, right? So I'm trying to understand the context of my information, right? So that is where I'm doing this pragmatic analysis. So at the very end, so we are trying to understand the context of my the things I talk. So 4 parts, guys. Do not get confused. The first is first from the text, whatever information I have, I'm breaking into smaller pieces. We call this as tokens. So smaller chunks are called as tokens. The second is, once I have the tokens, I'm trying to make the more of individual relationship between my tokens, right? So I have 2 different words, like my name is Arpit Jain, so name and Arpit are connected, right? So it's more of finding on the relationship between my individual tokens, so where the unigrams, bigrams comes into picture, right? The third is my semantic analysis. Semantic means now I have the relationships. So with this relationships, I'm trying to get the meaningfulness of it. Whether the name should come first, Arpit Jain name. I mean, it does not really make sense. Or name Arpit Jain, right? Yeah. So it is making sense. So I'm trying to get the meaningfulness of my sentences. So whatever text I have, right? So the exact dictionary meanings basically. So that is where I'm trying to get the meaningfulness of my sentences, right? And the fourth is my context. I have a sentence. Now I'm trying to understand the context of it. I would say the hidden feeling kind of a thing, right? So, or more of how can I express it? So yeah, it's more of an expressions, right? So how you talk. Like for example, you sometimes you talk in irony, right? So it's more of you say, hey, that movie was okay. I mean, so it's like I'm saying that is it okay, but it's not actually okay. It's not that good, right? So that is where I'm trying to understand the context of my information. Right? That's where pragmatic analysis comes into picture. Cool. So that's your 4 components of NLP, right? So that's about your thing. So that's very I would say very much on the layout part of your NLP. So now I'm not jumping into the concept. So there are a lot of ways, right? So when I was talking about this token, so there are a lot of ways where we can create the tokens, and then the meaningfulness. There are a lot of ways where we can identify the meaningfulness. So we have vectorizers involved. We have parts of speeches. We have bag of words. We have then in the vectors also we have multiple ways of vectors. So there are a lot of techniques involved, right? So we'll go in that. So do not worry. So we'll talking about all of these concepts. But again, I'm just giving you the layout. So now you know that okay, now I have to do tokens. So that is my very first step anyway. The second is okay, now I have the tokens, I have to find the relationship between my tokens. How can I do that? So now you should be thinking in that respect. Now मेरे पास tokens है, how can I make the relationship between my tokens? So that should be your next step. So if you have the layout in front of you, right, what you have to do with this text, it'll make your work easier, right? Because you cannot just keep on remembering all the available functions. That'll make you a machine yourself, right? So think about your problems before jumping into the problems, right? That'll actually help you to get the things done, because ये functions हैं या फिर जो भी आप coding पे करते हो, these things are made to make your life easier, not to trouble you, right? So do not jump into the functions just like okay NLP पढ़ना है, job आती है, हमें करना पड़ेगा, तो I mean NLP पढ़ना पड़ेगा, वो job के सेंस से मत पढ़ो यार, इसको पढ़ने के सेंस से पढ़ो, है ना? Then you'll, if you enjoy it, if you understand it, it'll become easier for you to implement also. पहले सोचो करना क्या है उसमें, ठीक है? चलो कमिंग बैक अगेन, एनएलपी के एप्लीकेशंस क्या है यार, थोड़ा थ्योरीज पढ़ लेते हैं. सो देन विल जंप इनटू द कॉन्सेप्ट्स. एनएलपी के एप्लीकेशंस क्या है? मेनी वेयर यार, आई मीन इट्स लाइक enormous applications, enormous. So NLP is, I would say, is anyway an emerging technology, and it derives various forms of AI we can use these days. In fact, मैं क्या बोलूँगा, you guys can give me like 10 applications right now. I understand, I know that, right? So it's like a very, very important cognitive skills available right now in the market, right? And for increasingly cognitive applications, the use of NLP is actually creating a seamless and interactive interface between your machine and the humans, the way they can interact, right? So following are some of the interesting, useful applications of, I've listed on some of the interesting applications, guys. So let's take them one by one, right? So again, if you feel that there is any other interesting application, because so whatever application I'm trying to give it to you right now today, right? So I'm trying to incorporate a session where we can actually develop one of these applications in our live demo session, right? So I'll run you through the sample sets, I'll run you through the sample codes, and then I'll show you how you can exactly build your entire NLP machine from scratch, right? So from scratch, I'll show it to you how you can build it. Cool. So yeah, I've written on few of the interesting things, guys. So I have worked, I would say not all, but almost all of these applications. So if anybody has any interest in any of the things, so they can let me know. So I'll try to give you a demo on that thing specifically. But yeah, so anyway, we can do it anyway. So after our concepts thing. So interesting things could be like machine translations. So again, translations are very important. So now if I have say one language and I have to translate the things into other language, so basically it's the machine which is doing it for you, right? So for that, machine has to first understand the first language and then convert that language into the language you want it to be, right? So and that translation also is being done by machine. So पहले machine को समझना तो पड़ेगा वो क्या है, how the machine can translate it, right? So it's a very, very Google Translate, right? So I mean, it's a very useful thing. I have been traveling abroad, so and trust me, I have been using Google Translate even in the supermarket. So they have a feature of a camera. I mean, where you can just actually just put up your camera in front of that text, or they have in the aisles in the supermarket, right? They've written in the native languages. So I used to just put up the screen like phone camera on that, and it used to, on the fly, it used to convert it into English. So that's how I used to, do the shopping in the supermarkets elsewhere in Europe. So it's that fast and that quick, right? So that's what machine translation is. It's very interesting, guys, and very, very, very good use case. So I have personally seen the benefit of it, and it's very good. Again, the thing is fighting spam, right? So most of the times you have the filters in your Yahoo mails and the Gmails, right? So you are not realizing it, but again, there is some logic in the background which is actually fighting the spam emails, right? So based on the context, based on the text, it is actually filtering out your data, your emails, and dumping the unwanted ones, or dumping the risky ones into the spam folders, right? It's again an application of your NLP only. Web search, very interesting thing. So you're also doing some web search. You're like, for example, you are searching, say, anything. So like maybe anything on Google, right? So Game of Thrones, my best thing. So, and then what it does, so for the Game of Thrones, there is some internal contextual things available on web. So it takes it. So this Game of Thrones is actually getting converted into a cache. It's more of a smaller version of your index search, right? And then that's how the web searches work. So it actually does not searches Game of Thrones like this big text in the background. Rather, it converts into a smaller index and then it searches it. So how does it convert it? It's a very interesting use case, and that's what Google also follows. Google search also follows. So you might have seen, right? So whenever you're searching anything, it is giving you like in nanoseconds, right? The web searches. So how does it do it? So definitely, even in that, NLP is playing a very, very crucial role. So I won't say it's all based on NLP. It's not like that. So definitely they have the good infra also, for sure. But yeah, definitely NLP is also playing a very important role there. So it's a very important use case, very good use case again. Automatic text summarization, ये तो सबने सीखा हुआ है. So अभी आपको like whenever you're typing a text in your WhatsApp or your messages, right? So you're actually getting it auto-filled, right? So again, that is your NLP only, right? So it is actually sensing your way. So now these days, if you have the high-end phones, so it has the capability to understand, to actually learn also. Like for example, अगर आपने ध्यान दिया होगा, if you have been typing things on Hindi, like क्या कर रहे हो, KYA, like क्या कर रहे हो in Hindi, in like Hindi plus English, whatever it is, right? So now it is able to understand that also, right? That's purely because of AI running in the background, right? So it is able to read, it is able to understand, it is able to recognize the way you talk, the way you text the messages, right? The way you use your text in your messages, right? And that's where your summarization also helps you out. It is actually giving you the recommendations, top 3 recommendations on the top. If you would have seen that, that's purely your NLP work. And it's a beautiful concept behind it. I have myself worked in one of the use case for that particular summarization part. It's a beautiful concept. It's a very beautiful concept, and it is learning on the fly. Your phone is actually learning on the fly, right? So that's also a very, very good use case. Grammar correction, question answering. Question answering, you can actually talk to a bot, right? So you can create a chat bot and then you can just talk to him. Like you might have seen in many of the companies, they have the automated chatbots, right? So that chatbot is also your NLP application. So you can actually create those chatbots. Chatbots again are we can talk about. In fact, I was planning to have this chatbot thing taken separately. So even in this chatbot, we have 2 types of chatbots, guys. The first is the plain simple question answers. Like for example, I'm just gonna feed say 100 questions in the machine, and the machine can only answer those 100 questions. It cannot answer the 101st question which I want to ask, right? So that's more of a static question answering from the machine. That's we don't call as a chatbot. It's more of a question bot, right? So technically, and the other is my live chatbot, where I can ask any question, any open question, and it is able to decode it. Right? Yeah, and when I say any random question, still there is some rules in the background, right? So we have a beautiful concept of RASA, right? So we have a concept called as RASA. That's more of a dynamic AI based chatbot, right? So we can maybe if people are interested, so we can take RASA also some of your time, so we can have the content planning for NLP also. So we can take that. Sentiment analysis, guys. Sentiment analysis also very good. So again, as I said, for example, I say, hey, that movie was okay. So so if I'm talking, I'm saying okay, I have a different tone at okay, right? So hey, that movie was okay. So in that sense, I would say that okay, that movie is not that great, right? I mean in that sense, but Is the machine is able to understand that tone? No, machine is not able to understand that tone, right? Machine is able to just recognize that, hey, that movie was okay. That means the movie was okay, right? That is what the machine will understand, right? Thus, finding out the sentiments from my text is very important, right? So that is where your things come up. So that is where your positive sentiments, your negative sentiments, your Amazon reviews, your Flipkart product reviews, right? So sometimes the getting the sentiment of those reviews are very important, right? So that's where the sentiment, the sentiment tweets, right? So tweets maybe हम sentiment find out करते हैं. Very commonly used use case in NLP, sentiment tweets sentiment analysis. So you can also do that. So yes, Saurabh, definitely, why not? So we can have a session on live chatbot also. In fact, I was planning that. So maybe once we finish NLP on the basic NLP stuff, like talking about your other concepts, then we can go towards live chatbot also. So we can have another session on live chatbot post this. So I'll take that into note. Thank you so much for that. Speech engines be same. So these are some of the interesting use cases, guys. So which I have seen it myself. Again, the list is not limited to these. Okay, so it's not at all limited to this. It has enormous application. NLP has enormous applications, right? So I have just written those which I have seen it from my eyes and which I have observed where the NLP has been useful. So right, again, so do not stick only to these. But again, we can. I was doing some of the odd use cases on spam analysis, on web searches. So I'll try to put up some of the sample data from web, and I'll try to show it to you how exactly we can develop the NLP techniques on Python. So we can take that also after we finish the concepts, right? Okay, so how NLP is different from ML? Very, very good question, Sandeep. Thank you so much for asking that. Very good question. So NLP and ML क्या है पहले वो समझते हैं, ठीक है? ML क्या है? Machine learning, okay? Machine learning process. मशीन लर्निंग क्या है? मशीन को मैं कुछ भी लर्न करा सकता हूँ. मशीन को मैं टेक्स्ट भी लर्न करा सकता हूँ. मशीन को मैं क्लासेस भी रन करा सकता हूँ. मशीन को मैं बोल सकता हूँ कि आप नंबर्स को भी लर्न करो, राइट? सो मशीन लर्निंग जो है एक ओवरऑल ब्रॉडर अम्ब्रेला है, राइट? इट्स अ ब्रॉडर अम्ब्रेला, इट्स अ बिगर अम्ब्रेला, जहां पे मशीन्स को मैं I can actually make the machine learn anything, right? Where NLP is one of the things which machine can learn, like natural language processing, right? So natural language, I want machine to learn the natural language. So machine learning is a broader umbrella where NLP is one of the sub branches of my ML. आपको याद होगा when I was doing this master class for AI ML, I told you that AI ML कुछ नहीं है. मशीन लर्निंग जो है आपका, मशीन लर्निंग एंड डीप लर्निंग बेसिकली जो मैं बोल रहा था आपको, AI आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस बहुत ही सबसे बड़ा अम्ब्रेला है. इट्स द बिगेस्ट अम्ब्रेला. सो उसमें आपके पास नैरो AI है एंड आई वुड से ब्रॉड AI है. सो वीक आपको ना वीक AI और स्ट्रॉन्ग AI मैंने बता रहा था आपको. सो स्ट्रॉन्ग AI में हमारे पास रोबोटिक्स आता है, राइट? वेयर वी आर एक्चुअली डूइंग द आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस वर्क. I mean, we have the broader open arena of things to think of, right? But in the narrow way, we are talking about specific problems like text analysis or classes or numbers or clusters, right? So or weak AI. So weak AI का part में ML आता है, right? And ML के अंदर में भी आपका multiple things है, multiple things we are trying to learn. So NLP is one of the things of ML, right? So सबसे ऊपर आता है AI, second is ML, third is your deep learning. So deep learning is a part of machine learning. NLP is a part of machine learning, right? It's not different. It's a part of your machine learning. Got it? So do not get confused by these terms, right? Machine learning तो क्या? Machine learning क्या? Machine को आप learn करा रहे हो. You're making the machine learn, right? अब learn में कुछ भी learn करा सकते हो ना. आप उसको बोलोगे यार अभी नहीं, आप language सीखो. अभी आप कल को language मत सीखो, कल को आप numbers सीखो, कल को आप classes को सीखो. तो आप learn तो कुछ भी करा सकते हो. तो you are making the machine learn text. So that is your NLP, right? So NLP is one of the sub branches of machine learning. That's it. Cool. I hope that I answered your question, Sandeep. Any other questions, guys? ठीक है. So अभी काम करते हैं. Let's try to take each of these applications one by one, and we'll try to finish these applications today itself, right? And then we'll jump to the codes. ठीक है, but again let's try to see each of these applications one by one. इसमें हम क्या use कर रहे हैं, why these are important, right? So as I said, machine translation is one of the important applications of my NLP, right? So here what we are doing, we are basically doing a processing of my translation from one text language to another text language. I said, right? So for example, I have say something in Spanish and I don't know Spanish, but I know English. So I'm telling the machine to take an input of a text in Spanish and give me the conversion, the translation of that same Spanish text into English, right? So and now I can understand English. So the translation work is what machine is doing for me, right? So now machine knows both. So machine knows Spanish as well as English, right? And it is able to make the relationship between my Spanish tokens and the English tokens. And also most importantly, it is able to understand the semantics of it. It is able to understand the meaningfulness of the exact dictionary meaning of my sentences. And also the pragmatic analysis, where it is able to understand the different possibilities, different scenarios, the context of your text, right? Suppose if I say that, hey, what is your name? If I just do word by word translations, then you first convert hey, then what, then is, then your, then name. So it's like more of a word to word translation. वो नहीं होता यहाँ पे. It is able to decode the context also, right? You would have seen that maybe in some of the languages, the verbs are at the beginning and the nouns are at the end. Likewise, in some of the other languages, the nouns are at the beginning and the verbs are at the end, right? So there are different ways different languages are written. So if you go for word by word translation, that will not help you to get the exact meaning. You need to understand the context behind that. So that's where your semantic analysis, syntactic analysis, as well as pragmatic analysis comes into picture. All of these three has to be taken care of, and by default morphological to hoga hi hoga, because tokens the first aapka entry point hai anyway. Cool. So that is where your machine translation comes into picture, and it is becoming very important thing. So here the machine has to be bilingual for sure, because it is giving me a translation to minimum 2 languages, like Spanish to English, or say Hindi to English, or English to Hindi, right? Or it can be multilingual, so we can also train it on multiple languages, like Spanish to French, French to English, English to Spanish, right? So, or it could be multilingual, so depending on the way we are trying to build up. So trust me, Google Translate is one of the very strong machine translation NLP engine available in the market. Very strong NLP engine for machine translation for NLP, right? And as I've said, they have developed also this. I mean, I was using it like 2 years back, so definitely they would have advanced it. I've not been using it here, because anyway, in India we are not doing it. But again, so I was using it 2 years back, so I would definitely recommend that you should try it once. So Google Translate has an option to just open up the camera, and then you can just face the camera towards the text which is in some other language, and on the fly on the camera screen, on the screen itself, you should be able to see the translation. So that's how quick it is, right? So it's more of it is doing 2-3 things here. So it is also doing the image to text conversion. So it is actually reading an image, and from that image it is actually taking out the text, and that text is being converted into your doing the machine translation. So it's more of input is through an image. So image conversion bhi wahan par ho raha hai. So that's also one of the applications of my deep learning. So image classifications or image analysis, right? So we can also take forward. We can also go for image in some of the other classes. A very interesting topic. So that's how it works, right? So the second is the fighting spam, as I was talking about. So it's more of, you would have seen enormous emails anyway coming. It's more of an unwanted emails. So spam filters most of the days are actually, you have already, your inbox is already doing that. I would say the wherever you have the servers on, like a Google Gmail or a Yahoo Mail, so that they are already doing it for you. But again, also based on certain text, based on certain characters or something like that, you can also put up that rules in your inboxes. I hope you know that, right? So you can also apply some of the text filters. This is nothing but my NLP applications, right? So it's more of a static rules only, but again a part of my NLP application where you can apply certain extra rules on top of my available spam filtrations, right? So always possible. So here what it does, it basically considers the false positive and the false negative issues as the main issues, and the functionality here is doing the spam filtration. So it's considering again the most of the false positives and the negatives, and based on that it is doing it. So again here technically there are a lot of things happening in the background, like n-gram modeling. It is able to understand the relationship between my text. Like for example, somebody is giving me a mail with, they say, sale, 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 right? So it is able to identify the relationship here, sale, sale, like together it could be a highlighter, a critical highlighter for my spam, right? So it is able to understand the relationship between my individual tokens. Word stemming, Bayesian classification. So a lot of techniques are actually, advanced techniques are now are actually being used these days by your suppliers, by your vendors, for your towards your more of spam filtrations. So very interesting use case. Web search, as I was talking about. So most of the search engines like Yahoo, Google, Bing, they are using the machine translation technology to actually do the NLP deep learning searches, right? So what it does here technically, so they are trying to first understand the text we are trying to give. So for example, if I say whatever, like what is the capital of India, right? So if that is my search, right? So it is able to understand the text behind it, right? It is able to understand the contextual meaning of my search, right? Because if I do not understand, say if I say what is the capital of India, so I have 5-6 tokens here. Capital to kuch bhi ho sakta hai, capital India. Is India is a capital or India capital? I mean, how the machine will understand that, right? What to search? And trust me, that happens so quick. It is able to understand the context of my sentences, and based on the context, it is creating you the index, the search index, and based on that index, it is giving you your search results within the nanoseconds, right? It's that fast. So definitely there is a very strong NLP model which is running in the background, and also yes, they do have a very strong infra also to support that. But again, their search algorithms, the kind of models they have built for NLP to understand the context of my searches is very strong, and they are actually upgrading it like every other day. I won't say every other day, every other hour maybe. So that's how strong it is, right? So that's how strong. And definitely here web searches becomes one of the key concepts. So if the searches do not understand the context of your searches, it cannot give you the right results, right? And you would have seen the accuracy of, just compare the accuracy of Google and the Bing searches, right? So I'm not discouraging anything, but I can try to see. So like for example, if you try to search something complicated, like what would be the next flight from San Francisco to Delhi on 3rd of March, maybe something like that. So let's just try to search something which is a bit complicated, right? And try to compare the results from different web search engines like Google, Yahoo, Bing, MNC. There's a lot of other web searches also, right? So try to see the search results from them and try to compare the search results. You will definitely see the differences, right? For sure you'll see the differences, and that's how you will understand that how strong one of the other algorithms are, and how strong and how relevant your results are on one of the other platforms, right? So you can always compare that, and definitely from that you can understand that there are two things. First is the way the NLP algorithms are being deployed here, the way they are able to decode your text, it's different in each of the platforms, right? So you can obviously try it once. So maybe after the class or during class, you can always try that. So that'll actually show you the differences, right? Automatic text summarization, so मैंने आपको already बताया. So it's more of short and accurate summary of your longer text, right? So it's giving you the relevant information in a less time, and also the functionalities play an important role in developing an automatic text summarization. So it's more of your summarization of your techniques, a summarization of your information into a smaller text. So it is again able to understand your entire contextual thing, and it's giving you more of a headliner, right? So more of a headline of a one-pager document, right? So it is able to understand the entire context, the meaning, the information available inside this, and then it's giving me a headline for that, right? So it's more of automatic text summarization. So very again interesting use case. grammar correction. So a lot of times we have the word processor software like Microsoft Word. So it is actually giving you the spelling correction and the grammar correction. It is by default giving you those pop-ups, right? And it is making it red and underlined by red, right? And giving you a recommendation that, hey, please check the spelling or please check the grammar here. So potential updates also is giving you, right? So again, a very beautiful concept of NLP running in the background. And for this, they have been training this model like crazily, right? So the enormous amount of training is involved here. So again, definitely the kind of data it has been fed with to understand the relationship between my individual tokens, that's crazy. So that's how the Microsoft Word, this software process, the word processors are actually giving you the recommendations of grammar correction. Have you seen that? I mean, most of the people are also using Notepad++ or Sublime or whatever. So for your other word processors, right? So you might have seen that you're not getting any grammar correction or spelling correction. Spelling correction still may be possible, but grammar correction you're actually not getting in anywhere in other very prominent word processor softwares, right? Which is a key feature of your Microsoft Word, right? So trust me, you might not see this very often in. I've not used other processors that much, but whatever I have used till date, I have not. I was able to see the spelling correction still in some of the other two, but the grammar correction is the key salient feature of your Microsoft Word, right? So that's again for this, they have been doing the work on NLP crazily. So the kind of processing it takes, the kind of effort, the kind of model it has been built. So it is actually able to help you with more of your grammar correction thing, right? So again, as I said, so NLP is widely used for this purpose. Question answering also is pretty much simple. So as I've said, so there are two ways. So it's more of a chatbots application. So as I've said, there are two ways of question answering, the bots. So the first is my question bots. So the question bot is more of a static bot, so where it can only answer a certain fixed amount of questions. So for example, if I say that, hey, how are you doing today? So it will give you two options to choose from. So I would say, I'm doing good, I'm doing bad. It'll show you those options. You have to choose. If you click I'm doing good, it'll again show you two more options, right? I'm doing good. So then what can I do for you? Or I hope you're doing well too. So there are 2-3 options. So there's like more of a tree diagram, right? So for one response, there'll be 2 more other responses. And then for the other 2 responses, there'll be 2 more other responses, right? It's more of a tree diagram kind of approach. So that's what happens in static question bots. So it's more of a rule which is already written inside, right? So for all of these questions, there are certain fixed responses. And for fixed responses, again, there are certain other fixed responses. And then the tree can go to any deep level, whatever you want to, and it is all configured by default configured, right? So that's more of static bots, or that's more of question bots, right? But the other very interesting bot is my live chatbots, right? So where the chatbot is actually able to understand the context of your text, and based on your context, it is actually responding to your query, right? Most of the days, like if you go to any advanced chatbots, you can also go for Microsoft website, and they have a chatbot there. It's a very advanced chatbot, so you can actually try it. So you can actually try the live chatbots, and the live chatbots are most prominently built on one of the very interesting available salient feature available on Rasa. So we can take that also some of the other post this NLP session. So we can go for Rasa chatbots. Very interesting, guys. So I'll show you how exactly you can build a live chatbots. Again, and trust me, it sounds tricky, but again, the whole concept still remains the same, guys. Tokens, static analysis, syntax analysis, semantic analysis, pragmatic analysis, right? आपका process still same है. आपको इसलिए मैं पहले इतना ज्ञान दिया, इसलिए दिया because वो process हर जगह same है, okay? अगर आपको वो नहीं पता होगा तो आप कभी build ही नहीं कर पाओगे वो चीज़. Now, हाँ, there are certain advancements on top of that, but it's not like I'm gonna put that entire thing in the garbage and then I'm gonna put something else, right? That's not how it works, right? You have to first understand how exactly things are built up. So the core jo base hai na, that's how it is being built. Okay, yeah, there'll be if I'm using a chatbot, yes, there are a lot of other things also. Like I have to take an action on top of that, so I have to put some action rules, right? So how to connect the input with an output. So a lot of things. There are some advancements on top of that. Definitely, it's like pretty much understood, right? But it's not tricky. Okay, it's not tricky. It sounds tricky, but still, trust me, the whole concept remains the same. The core concepts remains the same. It's just like few advancements based on the use cases, based on the way I'm trying to use these applications. I mean, like the way if I use for question answering, like the way I use for grammar correction. Definitely, I have to modify the solutions according to the need, right? But trust me, the core concept still remains the same. It does not changes, right? It does not changes. Cool. Few more. So sentiment analysis, a very interesting use case, guys. Very interesting uses. So I've been talking about the online e-commerce companies like Amazon, Facebook, Flipkart, and all that, right? So they have the fake reviews. So very common problems these days where the e-commerce websites are having the fake reviews. For example, suppose I'm a seller and I'm selling certain product, and there are certain other sellers, right, selling the same product. So what these sellers do, they put up a fake comment for the same product for the other sellers that, hey, this is a very bad product, a very bad experience and all that. So that's basically a fake review, right? And they're getting, sometimes they do it for their own business, and sometimes they're the third person involved who is doing this for money. So, and people are getting paid to review also, you know that, right? So they are paid reviews. So again, paid reviews could be good or could be bad. So I can pay someone to give a fake review, to give a bad review to somebody else, right? I can do that, or I can hire a person to give a good review to me, right? Either way is fine. Either way is possible. So to get the clear distinction between my reviews, so whether that is genuine or fake, and also to identify the sentiments of your products, right? So for example, whether that particular product or that particular, I would say, more of a campaign for any companies, right? So how is the feedback? How is the feeling of the people? How is the output of the things here, right? So you can get the sentiment of your things done. So like a positive sentiment or a negative sentiment. Like as I said, so there was a very interesting, I would say, incident happened about 2-3 years back when somebody was flying in the Indigo airline, and like please don't remember, so some random airline. So and they tweeted. So and the flight got delayed by say 3-4 hours, I guess, and they tweeted it, and the person tweeted it. Hey, it was a very wonderful experience, right? So in an ironical fashion. So like, hey, I just, my flight just got delayed by 3 hours, and what a wonderful experience it was, with a angry smiley, right? And you know what? Generally, what happens? The channels, they have the automatic replies, right? So they have the bots which is replying to these tweets automatically. And you know what? What this bot replied on that? Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to have a convenient flight for you. So on that tweet, and that tweet got really backlash on the on the Twitter arena, you know that. So that will happen. So that's how strong it is. So at that time, that company's tweet box, the bot which was actually analyzing the sentiment, was not, definitely was not able to identify this sentiment. Otherwise, it wouldn't have responded likewise for that, right? It took it as a positive sentiment, but in fact, it was a negative sentiment, right? So that's how strong it is, right? So to understand the sentiment of your sentences, humans are very, very smart people. They are very, I would say, smart, right? So they can actually, the ironical sentences are very difficult to crack in the machine world, right? So it's not that easy. And that is where your modeling purpose, your data which you feed to the model, and the kind of training you do for the machine to learn these hidden sentiments, it becomes very, very tricky and very important. So sentiments analysis is also very tricky. So very interesting use case. So based on the context of your information here, context is very important, right? So your pragmatic analysis is very important. But again, how can you read to pragmatic analysis? Can you reach to pragmatic without doing the syntax analysis, or can you reach to pragmatic before doing any semantic analysis? No, you cannot, right? That's a process which you follow, right? So that is the reason why your 4 core concepts, the 4 processes, the 4, I would say, methods of your NLP becomes very important. The first is the morphological process, where you convert the data, the sentences into smaller chunks like tokens, and then you do your syntax analysis. You identify the relationship between the tokens. The third is you identify the meaningfulness of those things, like the dictionary meaning, and try to understand whether does it making a logical sense, right? So that's more of taking the sense out of your sentences. That's your semantic analysis. The last is a pragmatic analysis, understanding the context of your sentences, right? So that's the 4 steps becomes very important. So that's where your sentiment analysis can be built up. Cool. So implementation now बहुत ज़्यादा हो गया. So it's more of we discussed about the theory lot. So now let's jump to the implementation part. So we'll talk about how we can implement these things, right? So there are a lot of NLP tools available in the market, guys. So which you can actually use to build up these layers, like pragmatic layers or like your semantic layers, morphological layers. So all of these is possible. So process again still remains the same. The concept still remains the same. It's just the other way where you'll be implementing these concepts in your platform, right? So I have Nltk, which is like Natural Language Toolkit. I have Malay, I have Gate, I have Open NLP, UIMA, Genis. I have Stanford also providing Stanford Toolkit. So most of them are actually in Java, but with Nltk being the prominent one in Python. So Nltk you would have heard. So Natural Language Toolkit is one of the very prominent libraries available, or high-level API available in Python, which is purely working for your NLP stuff, right? So all the related techniques which you want to implement, and again, techniques still remain the same, guys. So morphological process, your syntax, your semantic, and your pragmatic analysis. So the process still remains the same, right? So it's more of I would say library, the high-end libraries which you can use for your implementation of your NLP techniques. Yeah, Alteryx and Tabule is more of a platforms, so platforms to implement your data science stuff. So your data analysis, again, it's more of another tools. Is again all the other, these are the tools which are the alternatives to Python, I would say, in that sense. So you can use that, but again, it's probably dependent on the company which you're part of. So every company does not have Alteryx, right? And every company does not have Tabule. I have not worked personally with Tabule, but I've worked with Alteryx. But again, it's more of the other tools, right? So it's like I mean, it's more of a option for you to use these tools in the companies. I mean, it depends on how they are performing the data science stuff, right? So it's more of that sort. Right, so as I said, Nltk is the most prominent one in Python. So the highly recommended one from all the available tools is Nltk, because it's very easy to use and the explanation of the concepts are quite easy here. So the concepts which I talked about, right? Your pragmatic analysis, semantic, syntax, आपको ये अब तो याद हो जाएगा, हमने इतनी बार बोल दिया, right? So ये जो core concepts है ना, वो core concept you can actually implement in Nltk quite easily, and the explanation of this concept is also quite easier here, right? So you'll be able to understand, अच्छा ये token हो गया, token से अभी ये इतने words बन गए मेरे, अब इस words को मैं vectors में convert कर देता हूँ, इस words को मैं bigrams में convert कर देता हूँ. So you will actually able to see हर स्टेप पे कैसे कैसे क्या चीजें हो रही, राइट? सो NLTK is giving you that much, it's very easy to use, and Python is anyway a very easy language, right? So all the things are quite easy. I'll show it to you. So and then I will jump into the codes anyway. So I'll show it to you how we can implement those small concepts, right? So Nltk, as I told you, is written in Python. So everything, all the functions, all the classes, all the wrapper classes are available in Python for this. So we'll be talking about that. Nltk has incorporated most of the tasks. So as I said, so I won't say all, but I would say most. So most here may involve the tokenization. The very first tokens है, stemming lemmatization हम कल पढ़ेंगे. So we'll talk about how stemming and lemmatization works. So basically, it's more of again getting the meaning is coming under your semantic analysis. So getting the meaning of your text, right? So getting the actual meaning of your text. So stemming, lemmatization, punctuations, character counts, word count. I missed vectorizer here. So vectorization. So it's like all the important, I would say most of the needed functions are actually available under my Nltk. So a needed a thing which I want to perform, right? So which is part of my concept. So that can be implemented through Nltk, right? So it's very elegant and very easy to work. So NLP अगर करना है in Python, so most preferred is Nltk. Okay. So now with this, guys, I'm pretty much done. So now after this, we're gonna continue on notebook. Okay. So that's more of your summary part. That's more of your introduction to NLP, right? So now the theory part is over. So I hope you're pretty much comfortable. So with this, again, if anybody has any question, anything in understanding the concept, please let me know. Because iske baad we're gonna do the implementation part. So I'll just jump to the notebook now. Not now, so I'll jump to the notebook tomorrow. So I just introduced you to Nltk. So from tomorrow onwards, I'm gonna actually show you how you're gonna implement those individual concepts like tokenization, right? Like stemming, like lemmatization, punctuation, which are actually some of the other components of your entire processes. So I told you 4 processes, right? Morphological, syntax, semantic, and pragmatic. So ये सब उसी के ही part है. हम वही कर रहे हैं जो core concept है मेरा, right? I'm not deviating from the concept. The concept still remains the same. It's just like how you're trying to implement it based on your use case. अब some of the other way, like for example, stemming है, lemmatization है, punctuation है. अब according to my use case, I have to fine tune it, right? Anyway, so I have to modify the things, right? Based on my use case, based on my application, based on my requirement. So I cannot just say that, okay, यार वो उसी hard and fast rule है वैसे ही होगा, ज़रूरी नहीं है. You can modify the things, but the core concept always remains the same. Cool. So that's about the thing. I hope that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it, guys, from my side. If anybody has any questions from any of the concept which we have covered today on NLP or like Nltk, anyway, we've not started. So natural language processing, any use cases, explanation. So do ask your question in the chat. So I'm pretty much done for the day. So from tomorrow onwards, same time, 9 p.m., I'm going to start things on implementation part on the notebook. So I'm going to run you through each of these functions and how we can implement it. And individually, at the same time, I'm going to actually keep on defining also. So I have prepared the content accordingly. So I'll tell you what does individual task mean here, right? So, and how we can implement it also at the same time. Cool. So with this, guys, if anybody has any questions, so I'm giving you maybe 2 more minutes. So if anybody has any question, do put up in the chat, or we can wind up for the day. Okay, so what type of job in data analyst? Yeah, data analyst was one of the, I would say, job ही है. So अभी आपने designations में मत जाओ. So generally what I've seen is people are getting confused with the designations like data analyst, machine learning engineer, data scientist, business analyst, data consultant, business consultant. है ना? ये designations में मत जाओ, ठीक है? Do not go with the designation. Designations might vary from company to company. If you're asking about what is the job available in data science is a field, right? Data science is a field. So data science में multiple हर type के jobs हैं. Broadly, I'll tell you very, very broadly, there are 3 categories of jobs, right? So there are 3 categories of jobs. Do not go with the designations. I'll tell you 3 categories of jobs. The first category is the data analyst kind of a job or an analyst kind of a job, right? And these people, they take the data from the databases, they do the number crunching, they do the statistical processes, and then all the inferences of your data, understanding all the in and out of your data, they present it to the customer, right? So more of analysis of your data. So the analyst or a data analyst or a business analyst or a business consultant, don't go with the designations again. So these people look for the job description. That you get a job, you get a JD when you apply for a job, right? So in that JD, read the job description. So whenever it is mentioned that data analysis, number crunching, Python, SQL. So these are basically your data analyst kind of a job where you're going to do the analysis of your data, right? The second broad category is data scientist kind of a job. So data scientists are the people who are doing all the things which a data analyst is doing plus machine learning, right? So they are doing the analysis, they are doing the data number crunching, but also on top of that, they are building a predictive model on top of that, like a machine learning model or a deep learning model, right? Like an NLP work, right? So NLP is one of the deep learning techniques, right? So the data scientists are doing the job of analyst plus the machine learning part. So that's your data scientist kind of a job, okay? Again, you might still find out that even the job says the designation as data analyst, but even in the JD they have mentioned NLP, they have mentioned machine learning, they have mentioned Python. So technically they want you to be a data scientist. The designation is still a data analyst. That's how the company realizes that job as, but they're wanting you to work as data scientist. Okay, so always read the job descriptions carefully. Okay, so the second class of my job is data scientist, where analyst plus machine learning comes. The third broad category of my job is engineering side, the DevOps side, right? And these are the guys who are not related to any data science work. They are taking care of the infra, the deployments of the model which is being built up by the data scientists, like taking care of the infrastructure like cloud services, microservices, database services, REST calls, brokers, lot of things. So it's more of an infra side. So that's more of a DevOps of data science. So that's your third category of job. Cool. So I hope that answered your question. Cool. Any other questions, guys? Cool. Great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for asking that question. So that was a good question anyway. So yeah, I've seen that people are very much confused with these designations. It's pretty normal, and it's good that you opened up and you asked. So it's good to have a clarity on that front. Right. So with this, guys, so we can wrap up. Thank you so much for your patience and time. So we can meet at the same time tomorrow, 9 p.m. onwards. And then we're gonna start doing things on notebooks. So basically implementing your concepts, whatever we have learned today in terms of your Python coding. Okay, so I'm gonna jump to Python code tomorrow, and then we're gonna have the questions I'm gonna have the implementation of my concepts on NLTK done. Cool. Great. Thank you so much, Saurabh. Thank you, Sandeep. Thank you, everyone whosoever part of the chat today. So see you tomorrow. Thank you so much. Bye bye.